In this video, we will be reviewing the school breakfast meal pattern. School breakfast is comprised of three components: fruits, grains, and milk. Vegetables and meat or meat alternates are not required components of breakfast, but are optional substitutions. The first component is fruit. Fruit may be offered in several different forms. It can be served fresh, frozen, canned in juice or light syrup, dried, or as 100% juice. However, only half of your fruit servings can come from juice. Vegetables may be substituted for the fruit component. For a 5-day week, the minimum daily serving for all grades is 1 cup. The minimum weekly amount of fruit is 5 cups for all grades. For 4-day weeks, the daily serving size stays the same, but the weekly amount decreases to 4 cups. The second component of the breakfast meal pattern is grains. At least 80% of the weekly grains must be whole grain. The first ingredient on the product's ingredient list should be a whole grain. Meat or meat alternates can be used to meet the additional weekly grain requirements. Meat or meat alternates can only be served if a 1-ounce grain is already being served. For a 5-day week, the minimum daily serving for whole grains for all grades is 1 ounce equivalent. The weekly minimum for grades K through 5 and 6 through 8 is 8 ounce equivalents, and that increases to 10 ounce equivalents weekly for grades 9 through 12. For a 4-day week, the weekly requirement decreases. For grades K through 5, the weekly minimum requirement is 5.5 ounce equivalents. For grades 6 through 8, the weekly minimum is 6.5 ounce equivalents, and for grades 9 through 12, the weekly minimum is 7 ounce equivalents. To find the ounce equivalents in grain products, you can use a CN label or product formulation statement provided by the manufacturer, or you can use Exhibit A to determine ounce equivalents. To find the ounce equivalents in meat or meat alternate products, you can use the CN label or product formulation statement provided by the manufacturer, or you can use the USDA Food Buying Guide to determine how foods contribute. The third component of the breakfast meal pattern is milk. Schools must offer students at least 2 different options of fluid milk. Schools may offer fat-free, unflavored, or flavored milk, and low-fat, unflavored, or flavored milk for students in grades K through 12. If schools offer flavored milk, unflavored milk must also be available at each meal service. For a 5-day week, the minimum serving size is the same for grades K through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12. The minimum daily serving is 1 cup, and the weekly serving is 5 cups. The weekly minimum serving decreases with a 4-day week to 4 cups for all grade levels. The school breakfast meal pattern also has limits for additional nutrients, including calories and saturated fat. The restrictions on calories and saturated fat are based on a weekly average. For grades K through 5, the weekly average of calories should be between 350 and 500. For grades 6 through 8, the weekly average should be between 400 and 550. And for grades 9 through 12, the weekly average should be between 450 and 600. Saturated fat should not make up more than 10% of total calories for all grade levels. Additionally, schools have the option to use one breakfast meal pattern for grades K through 12. Using one breakfast meal pattern for grades K through 12 can be useful for grade configurations that prevent students from being separated into the required grade groups. For a 5-day week, both milk and fruit have a minimum daily serving of 1 cup and a minimum weekly serving of 5 cups. The minimum daily serving for grains is 1 ounce equivalent, and the weekly minimum is 9 ounce equivalents. For a 4-day week, the weekly minimums for milk and fruit decrease to 4 cups, and the weekly minimum for grains decreases to 6.5 ounce equivalents. The combined breakfast meal pattern for grades K through 12 does require a narrower calorie range and has limits on the amount of saturated fat. The weekly average of calories needs to be between 450 and 500, and the total saturated fat should not make up more than 10% of total calories. If you have any questions, please call 208-332-6821 or visit the Child Nutrition Program's webpage on the Idaho State Department of Education's website.
Idaho Child Nutrition Programs is an equal opportunity provider.